Hi, my name is Emma Carter. I'm 19 years old and I live in New York City, United States. I'm a college student studying business administration. But today, I'm not here to talk about my studies or my career plans. I want to share something personal, something that has been a struggle for me for a long time. The topic of my story is I can't speak English. It might sound strange because I was born and raised in the US, where English is the main language. But the truth is, just because you live in an English-speaking country doesn't mean you can speak English fluently or confidently. For me, speaking English has always been difficult. I understand English perfectly. I can read, I can write, and I can even think in English. But when it comes to speaking, I freeze. My heart races, my hands get sweaty, and my mind goes blank. Words don't come out the way I want them to. I hesitate, I stutter, and sometimes I just stay silent because I'm too afraid of making mistakes. I've always felt embarrassed about this. People assume that if you're American, you should speak English effortlessly. But that's not always the case. And I know I'm not alone. Many people struggle with speaking, even if they understand the language well. So, how did this happen? Why can't I speak English confidently? And what am I doing to overcome it? That's what I want to share with you today. My childhood. The beginning of my struggle. I was born in a bilingual household. My parents, David and Maria Carter, immigrated to the United States from Mexico before I was born. At home, we mostly spoke Spanish. My parents weren't fluent in English, so they preferred speaking Spanish with me and my younger brother, Lucas. Because of this, my first language was Spanish. I grew up speaking it naturally. Even though we lived in an English-speaking country, our home felt like a little piece of Mexico. We watched Spanish TV shows, listened to Spanish music, and celebrated traditional Mexican holidays. When I started school, I faced my first challenge. My classmates spoke English, and I struggled to communicate. I could understand what the teacher was saying, but when I had to speak, I felt lost. My sentences were broken, my pronunciation wasn't clear, and I felt different from the other kids. I remember one incident in first grade when the teacher asked me to read a short sentence aloud. I stood up, looked at the book, and tried to say the words, but they wouldn't come out. The whole class stared at me. Some kids giggled. I felt my face turn red. The teacher smiled and told me it was okay, but I wanted to disappear. That moment stuck with me for years. Growing up in silence. As I grew older, I improved my English. I studied hard, practiced reading and writing, and eventually became fluent in understanding the language. But speaking was still a nightmare. In middle school, I barely spoke in class. I avoided answering questions, even if I knew the answers. I was afraid of saying something wrong and embarrassing myself. When teachers called on me, I would mumble a few words and quickly sit down. My classmates probably thought I was shy, but the truth was, I was just scared. Making friends was also hard. I wanted to join conversations, but my fear held me back. I worried that my pronunciation wasn't perfect, that I would mix up words, or that people would think I was dumb. So I stayed quiet. I became the quiet girl in school, the one who listened but rarely spoke. At home, I was different. I was talkative, funny, and full of energy. But the moment I stepped outside, my personality changed. I felt like there were two versions of me, one in Spanish and one in English. The Spanish Emma was confident and expressive, while the English Emma was nervous and insecure. High school, the breaking point. In high school, things got worse. Teachers expected more participation in class, and group presentations became common. Every time I had to present something, I felt sick. I would spend hours preparing, memorizing every word, But the moment I stood in front of the class, my voice would shake and my mind would go blank. One of the worst experiences happened in my sophomore year. I had to give a history presentation about World War II. I practiced for days, rehearsing in front of the mirror. But when I stood in front of the class, I panicked. My throat felt dry and my legs felt weak. I stumbled over my words, mispronounced simple things, and at one point, I completely forgot what I was saying. My classmates stared at me. Some of them whispered to each other. My teacher encouraged me to continue, but I could see the pity in her eyes. After that, I felt completely defeated. I told myself, I just can't speak English. It's impossible. College. A new hope. When I started college, I knew I had to change. I couldn't go through life avoiding conversations and staying silent. I wanted to make friends, participate in class, and express my thoughts freely. So, I decided to face my fear. I started small. First, I spoke more in daily life, ordering food at restaurants, asking for directions, making small talk with classmates. At first, it was terrifying, but I forced myself to do it. Then, I joined a language club at my college. It was a place where students practiced speaking different languages, and English learners were encouraged to participate. I met people who were also struggling with speaking, and for the first time, I didn't feel alone. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when I met my friend Olivia. She was confident and outgoing, the complete opposite of me. She noticed my hesitation in speaking and started helping me. She would ask me questions, patiently wait for my responses, and correct me gently when needed. With her support, I slowly started improving. I learned that mistakes were okay. Nobody was judging me as harshly as I judged myself. The more I practiced, the more comfortable I became. I never imagined that my journey would lead me to moments of quiet triumph and loud breakthroughs all at once. After those early college days, when every interaction felt like stepping onto a stage with the spotlight burning into my skin, I began to see the possibility of change in every conversation I had. Every day was a small battle. I continued to attend language club meetings and practice sessions, even when the familiar knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. I remember one chilly autumn afternoon, sitting in a corner of the campus coffee shop with a notebook in hand, determined to write down a few sentences out loud as practice. I read a passage from a book I loved, slowly and deliberately. The soft murmur of conversations around me provided a comforting background hum. With each word I uttered, I felt a spark of confidence, as if I were piecing together parts of myself that had been hidden away for far too long. One day, an unexpected opportunity arrived. Our college announced an annual cultural showcase, a day when students from all backgrounds were encouraged to share stories, music, art, and traditions. I was hesitant at first. The thought of speaking in front of a large audience sent my heart into a rapid drumbeat. But then I thought of all the practice sessions, of Olivia's warm smiles, and the quiet nods of encouragement from friends who knew my struggle. I decided that this was the moment to finally let my true voice be heard. The night before the event, I barely slept. I rehearsed my speech over and over in my head, imagining every word and every pause. I pictured the audience, faces filled with curiosity and empathy. I recalled the countless times I'd felt isolated by silence, and I knew deep inside that I had a story worth sharing. The next day, when the time came, I stood backstage, trembling slightly but resolute. As I stepped into the softly lit auditorium, I felt the collective breath of the audience, and then I began. I spoke about my childhood in a bilingual household, about the early days of confusion and fear when I struggled to piece together English words that felt foreign on my tongue. I recounted that first painful memory in first grade when my voice faltered in front of my classmates, and how that moment had cast a long shadow over my years. Yet, I also shared the quieter victories, the days when I dared to answer a question in class, when I found a friend in Olivia who patiently guided me, and the countless small moments when I allowed myself to be imperfect. As I continued, my voice grew steadier. I realized that speaking wasn't just about perfect grammar or flawless pronunciation. It was about authenticity, vulnerability, and connection. The audience listened intently, and between their gentle smiles and encouraging applause, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was no longer just a girl who couldn't speak English. I was Emma Carter, a storyteller, a survivor of self-doubt, and someone who had reclaimed her voice despite the odds. That day marked a turning point. In the weeks and months that followed, I found myself more eager to seize opportunities to communicate. I joined a debate club, not to win accolades, but to challenge myself further. I enrolled in a creative writing course where I learned that language could be both art and armor, a way to express my inner thoughts without fear of judgment. I began to see every mispronounced word as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. One afternoon, I was approached by a fellow student named Rachel in one of my classes. With a warm smile, she confessed that she too had struggled with public speaking, and that my story had given her courage to speak up in class. We started meeting after lectures to practice together. Rachel's friendly teasing about my English bloopers slowly transformed into mutual laughter over shared missteps, and before long, our study sessions became a safe space for experimenting with language. It wasn't just about learning English. It was about learning to trust ourselves and to understand that every voice, no matter how tentative, adds to the rich tapestry of our experiences. There were still challenges, of course. I had days when anxiety crept in unexpectedly. A presentation in a major class would send my mind racing and my voice trembling. I remember one particular project meeting for a group assignment in my business administration course. As we prepared to present our findings, I felt the familiar surge of panic. My mind blanked for a moment, and I could feel my throat tightening. But then I caught a glimpse of Rachel's reassuring nod, and the memory of that cultural showcase flashed before my eyes. I paused, took a deep breath, and allowed myself a moment of silence. Then, in a steady voice, I rejoined the conversation, explaining our ideas with clarity and passion. The group not only understood my points, but also appreciated the authenticity behind every word I spoke. Beyond the academic realm, I discovered that my struggle with language was also an opportunity to build bridges. I began volunteering at a local community center where recent immigrants came for English classes. There, I wasn't just teaching. I was learning from them, listening to their stories of resilience and hope. Each evening, as I sat in a modest classroom with individuals from around the globe, I felt a deep sense of kinship. Their journeys mirrored my own struggles, and together we celebrated every small victory. A correctly pronounced word, a confidently structured sentence, a brave attempt at conversation. It was in these moments of shared vulnerability that I truly understood the power of language. It was not merely a tool for communication, but a vehicle for connection, empathy, and transformation. As I reflect on my ongoing journey, I see that my challenges with speaking English have shaped me into a person who values perseverance, compassion, and continuous growth. I have learned that there is beauty in imperfection, that every stumble is an opportunity to learn, and that every spoken word, no matter how flawed, carries the potential to change lives. I have come to understand that language is more than a means to communicate. It is a reflection of our inner selves, our histories, and our dreams. I still face days when the fear of judgment and the echo of old insecurities threaten to pull me back into silence. But now, I have a community that believes in me, a group of friends, mentors, and kind strangers who have all shown me that my voice matters. I continue to write in my blog, sharing both my triumphs and my setbacks. I know that my story is far from over. In fact, each new challenge is an invitation to grow further, to learn more about who I am, and to inspire others who might feel voiceless. Standing at this crossroads, I feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the challenges that taught me resilience, for the failures that led me to seek support, and for the countless moments of courage that allowed me to transform my fear into strength. I am no longer defined by the idea that I can't speak English. Instead, I have embraced the reality that speaking, with all its imperfections and hesitations, is an ongoing journey, a journey of self-discovery, connection, and empowerment. I share my story today not as a tale of complete victory, but as an ongoing narrative of growth. I hope that anyone who reads these words, whether they face language barriers or any other form of self-doubt, finds a spark of encouragement to take that first step. Every voice is important, every story is worth telling, and every struggle holds the promise of a breakthrough. My journey is a testament to the idea that fear is not the end, but the beginning of a path toward authenticity, and that every word spoken is a step toward becoming the person you truly want to be. And so, I continue, learning, stumbling, rising, and speaking. I am Emma Carter, a college student from New York City, and my journey of finding my voice is far from over. With each day, I embrace the challenge of expressing myself, confident in the knowledge that every conversation, every interaction, is a chance to grow and connect. My voice, once hidden by fear, is now a symbol of resilience, and I invite others to join me on this path of self-discovery and empowerment. As I sit here in my favorite spot at the campus library, looking out the window at the bustling streets of New York City, I can't help but reflect on how far I've come. The girl who once avoided conversations, who hesitated before ordering coffee, who feared the judgment of others, is now someone who speaks with confidence. But that doesn't mean the journey is over. Learning, growing, and finding my voice is a lifelong process, and every day brings new challenges and new lessons. One of the biggest turning points in my journey happened just a few months after the cultural showcase. I had started writing about my experiences on a personal blog, not expecting anyone to really read it. It was mostly for me, a way to document my struggles and victories, a safe space where I could be honest about my fears. But one day, I received a comment from a girl named Sophia, a college student from California, who told me she related to everything I had written. "Emma, your words made me cry because I feel the same way. I'm scared of speaking up in class. I avoid making phone calls because I don't want to embarrass myself. Your story gives me hope. Thank you for sharing this." Reading those words, I felt something shift inside me. For so long, I had thought of my struggles as something shameful, something to hide. But now, I realized that by sharing my story, I could help others. I wasn't just overcoming my fears for myself anymore. I was doing it for people like Sophia, for anyone who had ever felt trapped by their own self-doubt. That's when I made a decision. I would stop waiting for the perfect moment to speak, and I would embrace every opportunity to use my voice. It didn't matter if I stumbled over my words, or if my accent wasn't flawless. What mattered was that I kept trying. A new challenge a few weeks later, my professor announced a new assignment in my business communication class, a group presentation. Normally, I would have dreaded this kind of task, but this time, I felt something different. Determination. My group members included Rachel, who had become one of my closest friends, and two other students, Michael and Lucas. At our first meeting, I decided to take the lead. I think we should divide our presentation into clear sections and practice together, I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. Michael nodded. That sounds like a good idea. Who wants to do the introduction? A familiar fear crept into my mind, but before it could take over, I raised my hand. I'll do it. Rachel smiled at me, knowing what a big step this was. Over the next few days, I practiced my part relentlessly. I recorded myself speaking, listened to my pronunciation, and made small adjustments. But more importantly, I reminded myself that my goal wasn't perfection. It was confidence. The day of the presentation arrived. As I stood in front of the class, I took a deep breath and looked at my classmates. Some were paying attention, some were distracted, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that I was here, speaking, standing tall, and facing my fear head-on. I began. Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be talking about the impact of digital marketing on consumer behavior. And just like that, I was doing it. My voice was clear, my words flowed naturally, and for the first time in my life, I actually enjoyed speaking in front of people. When we finished, our professor smiled and said, Great job, everyone. Emma, you had a strong opening. Well done. Hearing those words felt like winning a battle I had been fighting my entire life. Finding my passion. After that presentation, I realized something. I actually liked public speaking. Not in the way that some people enjoy it effortlessly, but in the way that overcoming a fear can turn into a passion. I started signing up for more speaking opportunities, leading discussions in class, volunteering to introduce speakers at campus events, and even recording videos for my blog. Then, one day, something incredible happened. I received an email from my college's student affairs office. They had come across my blog and wanted to invite me to speak at an upcoming event about overcoming challenges in college. I stared at the email in disbelief. Me? A guest speaker? Just a year ago, I couldn't even order a coffee without panicking. And now, I was being asked to share my story in front of an audience? I knew I had to say yes. The day I found my true voice. The event was held in a large auditorium filled with students, faculty, and even some local professionals. As I stood backstage, I felt my hands trembling. But then I thought of Sophia. I thought of the girl I used to be, the one who thought she would never find her voice. And I thought of everyone in that audience who might be feeling the same way. I stepped onto the stage, took a deep breath, and began. My name is Emma Carter, and for most of my life, I believed I couldn't speak English. A hush fell over the crowd. I was terrified of saying the wrong thing, of being judged, of feeling like an outsider. But today, I'm standing here because I learned something important. Speaking isn't about being perfect. It's about being brave. It's about connecting with others. And most importantly, it's about believing in yourself. With the momentum of that pivotal event still echoing in my heart, my journey into the realm of self-expression took on new dimensions. I began to see each day as an opportunity, not just to speak, but to connect, lead, and grow. My newfound voice carried me into experiences that I had once only dared to imagine. I soon found myself juggling a whirlwind of opportunities. Invitations poured in from campus events, and even local community centers reached out to me to share my experiences. I was asked to co-host a discussion panel on multicultural identity, and one afternoon, my professor recommended me for a leadership program designed for students from diverse backgrounds. These opportunities, though daunting at first, slowly built a mosaic of experiences that enriched my sense of self. One crisp winter day, as I was leaving a study group session in one of the campus coffee shops, I received an email that would mark the beginning of a new chapter in my personal and professional life. A local nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting immigrant communities in New York had seen one of my blog posts. They were impressed by my journey and invited me to serve as a youth ambassador for their English language and cultural integration program. The role would involve speaking at community events, mentoring recent arrivals, and even helping to design workshops that bridged language gaps. I was both terrified and excited. The thought of addressing groups that included elders and newcomers who had only recently arrived in the United States was overwhelming. But I recognized that this was more than just another speaking engagement. It was an opportunity to give back and empower others who shared struggles similar to my own. In the weeks that followed, I immersed myself in the nonprofit's vibrant community. I met people from all walks of life, families who had traveled hundreds of miles in search of a better future, children whose eyes shone with the hope of new beginnings, and elders who carried with them decades of wisdom in their native tongues. In these encounters, I discovered that language was not just about words. It was about culture, memory, and identity. I listened intently to their stories, sometimes translating emotions where words fell short. Each conversation was a lesson, not only in language, but in empathy and resilience. My first assignment as a youth ambassador was to help lead a workshop on confidence building through storytelling. I was responsible for co-creating the agenda, inviting speakers, and, most importantly, sharing my own narrative. The workshop was held in a modest community hall in Brooklyn, where the walls echoed with the voices of generations past. As I prepared for the event, I spent countless hours refining my speech, trying to strike the right balance between vulnerability and strength. I wanted to honor my journey without dwelling too long on my past fears. Instead, I aimed to highlight the transformation, from the timid girl who once hesitated to speak, to the determined young woman who now embraced every word as a triumph. The night of the workshop, the hall buzzed with anticipation. Families, educators, and community leaders filled the space, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and hope. When my turn came, I walked onto the stage with a mixture of nervous energy and quiet resolve. I looked out at the sea of expectant faces and began, "My name is Emma Carter, and there was a time when I believed that my voice was a barrier. I was raised in a home where Spanish was the language of love, laughter, and memory. But in the world outside, where English was expected, I felt lost. Today, I stand before you not as someone who conquered her fear, but as someone who learned that every mispronounced word, every hesitation, is part of our story. And that story is worth sharing." As I spoke, I saw faces soften, eyes well with tears, and a sense of solidarity emerge in the room. The workshop turned into an intimate circle of shared experiences, stories of struggle, perseverance, and the bittersweet taste of victory. It wasn't just about teaching English. It was about reclaiming the narrative of who we are. For many, the language of the heart transcended mere words, and together, we began to see that confidence comes not from flawless speech, but from the courage to be heard. That night, as I drove home beneath a blanket of city lights, I reflected on the irony of it all. Once, I had been paralyzed by the fear of speaking English, convinced that every stutter was a mark of failure. Now, those very imperfections had become the stepping stones to connecting with others. I understood that the journey to self-expression was less about attaining perfection and more about embracing every facet of one's identity. In the following months, I continued to build on this foundation. I took on more leadership roles within the nonprofit, organized weekly discussion groups, and even began collaborating with local radio stations to share immigrant stories. Each opportunity was a reminder that my struggle was not unique, that many of us, regardless of our backgrounds, face moments of self-doubt and vulnerability. I learned to celebrate the diversity of voices, recognizing that every accent, every pause, was a testament to a life lived with purpose. At the same time, I pursued my academic goals with renewed vigor. My professors noticed the transformation in me, not just in my participation in class, but in the way I engaged with my peers during discussions. I no longer shied away from challenging topics or contentious debates. Instead, I approached them with the same careful thought and heartfelt honesty that had carried me through my earlier fears. My classmates began to see me not just as the quiet girl who once sat at the back, but as a passionate speaker with insights worth listening to. It wasn't always smooth sailing, of course. There were days when old anxieties resurfaced, moments when the pressure of public speaking or the weight of high expectations made my heart race and my palms sweat. I remember a particular evening in the middle of a busy semester when I was scheduled to give an impromptu speech in one of my advanced communication classes. As I stood before the room, memories of my past insecurities crept in like unwelcome shadows. I paused, feeling the familiar sting of self-doubt, and for a brief moment, I wondered if I was ready for this challenge. But then I recalled the faces from the community hall, the encouraging nods of friends, and the countless small victories that had brought me this far. I took a deep breath, gathered my thoughts, and continued speaking with a quiet confidence that surprised even me. That moment was a reaffirmation, a reminder that while the journey was ongoing, every step forward was a victory in itself. Beyond the academic and community spheres, this journey began to reshape my personal life as well. I started reconnecting with family in ways I hadn't imagined. Conversations with my parents, once conducted exclusively in Spanish, slowly began to include bits of English. We laughed over our miscommunications and celebrated the fusion of two cultures that defined our home. My younger brother, Lucas, even started joining me in practicing tongue twisters and playful debates, turning our living room into an impromptu classroom of laughter and learning. These moments, filled with both warmth and challenge, taught me that communication is not solely about linguistic perfection, but about the bonds we form along the way. As time passed, I found that my journey had become a tapestry woven with threads of courage, community, and continuous self-improvement. I began to see that every interaction was a chance to redefine my relationship with language. Whether I was speaking to a new acquaintance in a bustling cafe, presenting my ideas in a classroom, or listening intently to someone recount their own struggles, I embraced each moment as a stepping stone toward a fuller, richer expression of myself. One bright spring afternoon, I received an unexpected invitation from a renowned local author who had read my blog. He wanted to collaborate on a project exploring the narratives of immigrant women in New York City, stories that often go unheard amidst the clamor of everyday life. The project involved a series of interviews, workshops, and eventually a published anthology. I was both honored and anxious. This was a chance to not only share my journey in a different medium, but also to amplify the voices of women who had faced similar hurdles. I dove into the project with passion, meeting women who recounted tales of resilience, love, and the struggle for acceptance in a society that often valued conformity over authenticity. Their stories resonated with me deeply, reinforcing my belief that our voices, no matter how hesitant or unconventional, are instruments of change. Working on the anthology was a transformative experience. Every conversation was an exploration of identity, a blend of language, culture, and personal history. I learned that while language might sometimes feel like a barrier, it can also be a bridge, connecting hearts and minds across diverse experiences. As I transcribed interviews and pieced together narratives, I began to see my own journey reflected in the struggles and triumphs of these women. It was a powerful reminder that while our challenges might differ in details, the underlying quest for self-expression and acceptance is a universal one. Throughout this period, I continued to document my progress on my blog, sharing reflections on each new milestone and setback. The blog had evolved from a private journal of fear and doubt to a vibrant platform where others found solace, inspiration, and a sense of community. Readers from across the country, and even from overseas, reached out to thank me for my honesty, to share their own stories, and to ask for advice on overcoming their personal obstacles. I realized that my struggle with language, once a source of deep personal pain, had transformed into a beacon of hope for many. There were moments when I doubted whether I could ever fully overcome the ghosts of my past. The memories of stuttering in front of a classroom, the embarrassment of forgotten words in the middle of a presentation, the isolation that once defined my days. But then, in the quiet moments between meetings and classes, I would remind myself that progress is not linear. Every challenge I faced, every setback I encountered, was an integral part of the journey toward becoming who I was meant to be. Now, as I look back on the winding path that has brought me here, I am filled with gratitude. The fear that once silenced me has gradually given way to a voice that, while imperfect, is rich with authenticity and purpose. My journey taught me that it's not about achieving perfection in speaking. It's about embracing every syllable, every pause, and every burst of courage that allows us to be truly heard. Today, I continue to stand at the crossroads of growth and challenge, eager to face the next chapter of life. Whether it's mentoring a nervous newcomer at one of our community centers, collaborating on creative projects that celebrate multicultural narratives, or simply having a heartfelt conversation with a friend, I know that my voice matters. And I hope that by sharing my story, I can help others find the strength to speak up, to share their own truths, and to embrace the beautiful mosaic of language and identity. My name is Emma Carter. I am a student, a mentor, an ambassador of hope. And while my journey of self-expression is far from over, each day brings a new chance to connect, to inspire, and to speak with a heart unburdened by fear. I look forward to the future with anticipation, knowing that every word I speak builds a legacy of courage, not just for me, but for everyone who dares to find their voice.
Below are some detailed tips and tricks that can help if you feel like you can't speak English. While it may seem overwhelming at first, remember that many people share your struggles, and improvement comes with consistent practice and self-compassion. Here's an in-depth guide to help you build confidence and become more fluent over time. 1. Understanding your challenge. Acknowledge the fear. Accept that feeling nervous about speaking English is normal. Even native speakers sometimes struggle with public speaking. Recognizing that anxiety is part of the process is the first step toward overcoming it. Identify specific barriers. Ask yourself, what exactly holds you back? Is it pronunciation, vocabulary, or fear of making mistakes? Pinpointing the issue can help you address it more effectively. 2. Creating a supportive environment. Join language or conversation groups. Look for local or online language clubs where you can practice English in a relaxed setting. Conversing with others who are also learning can reduce the pressure of speaking perfectly. Find a conversation partner. Connect with someone who is patient and willing to engage in regular conversations. A language exchange partner or mentor can provide feedback and encouragement. Attend workshops and meetups. Many community centers, universities, and libraries host public speaking or language improvement workshops. These provide structured practice and constructive criticism. 3. Practical speaking exercises. Daily practice. Set aside a few minutes every day to speak English aloud. This could be reading a passage from a book, describing your day, or even practicing tongue twisters. Record yourself. Use your phone or computer to record your voice while you speak. Listening back can help you notice pronunciation issues and track your progress over time. Shadowing technique. Watch videos or listen to podcasts in English and try to mimic the speaker's intonation, rhythm, and pronunciation. This shadowing practice helps build natural speech patterns. Use language apps. Applications like Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, or even speech recognition tools can help you practice speaking and provide instant feedback on your pronunciation. 4th, building confidence and reducing anxiety. Embrace mistakes. Remember that mistakes are a vital part of learning. Every error is an opportunity to improve. Instead of feeling embarrassed, see each mistake as a stepping stone toward fluency. Positive self-talk. Replace negative thoughts with affirmations. For example, remind yourself, every time I speak, I am improving, or I have a unique voice, and I deserve to be heard. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques. Before engaging in conversation or giving a presentation, try deep breathing exercises or meditation. These techniques can help calm your nerves and keep your mind focused. Set realistic goals. Break your long-term goal of speaking fluently into small, achievable steps. For instance, aim to introduce yourself confidently, then progress to sharing a short story, and eventually engage in longer conversations. 5. Incorporating English in your daily life. Surround yourself with English. Listen to English music, watch English movies or TV shows, and read books or articles in English. This constant exposure will naturally enhance your vocabulary and understanding of the language. Engage in social media and forums. Participate in online communities or social media groups dedicated to English learning. Interacting with others in a low-pressure environment can improve both your written and spoken English. Practice in real-life situations. Use every opportunity, ordering food, asking for directions, or chatting with classmates, as a chance to speak English. Real-life practice is one of the best ways to build confidence. 6. Utilizing technology and resources speech recognition tools. Use tools like Google Voice Typing or other speech-to-text applications to practice speaking. These tools can help you see how accurately your spoken words are being recognized, which can highlight areas for improvement. Online courses and tutorials. Consider enrolling in online courses that focus on conversational English. Platforms like Coursera, Udemy, or even YouTube channels offer tutorials that can guide you through common challenges. Interactive language games. Participate in language games and quizzes that focus on speaking skills. These activities make learning fun and help reduce the pressure of formal practice. 7. Feedback and continuous improvement. Seek constructive criticism. Whether from a teacher, conversation partner, or a supportive friend, constructive feedback can pinpoint areas to work on. Be open to suggestions and view them as an opportunity for growth. Reflect on your progress. Keep a journal or blog documenting your journey. Reflect on your initial fears, note improvements, and identify areas that still need work. 8. Embracing a lifelong learning mindset. Understand that fluency takes time. Realize that language learning is a gradual process. Every conversation, every mistake, and every moment of courage brings you closer to fluency. Keep an open mind. Embrace the idea that learning a language is not just about grammar and vocabulary, it's about connecting with people and expressing your unique perspective. Be patient with yourself. Understand that progress may be slow at times, and that's perfectly okay. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory worth celebrating. Here are some additional tips and tricks that can further boost your English speaking skills, especially if you feel like you can't speak English. These techniques can complement the earlier suggestions and provide fresh approaches to overcoming your challenges. 9. Engage in role-playing exercises. Simulate real-life scenarios. Create role-playing sessions with a friend, tutor, or language partner where you mimic everyday situations, such as ordering food, making small talk, or asking for directions. Practice in a safe environment. Role-playing can reduce anxiety because it lets you experiment with different responses and vocabulary in a low-pressure setting. Over time, you'll build confidence in handling real-life conversations. 10. Practice self-talk in English. Narrate your day. Throughout your day, try to describe what you're doing, thinking, or feeling in English. For example, as you prepare breakfast, say, "I'm making toast and boiling eggs." Formulate thoughts directly in English. This habit can help your brain start processing everyday situations in English, reducing the mental translation from your native language and improving fluency over time. 11th. Build your vocabulary. Strategically focus on relevant words. Concentrate on learning vocabulary that is most useful in your daily life or related to your interests. This might include industry-specific terminology if you're studying a particular subject or general phrases used in daily conversations. Use tools like flashcards and spaced repetition. Apps like Anki or Quizlet can help you memorize new words through repetition and active recall, which makes it easier to retrieve them during conversation. 12. Immerse yourself in English. Join online language exchange communities. Platforms such as Tandem or HelloTalk connect you with native speakers or fellow learners for casual chat sessions. This type of virtual immersion is especially helpful if in-person interactions feel daunting. Attend local meetups. Look for local events or meetups where English is the primary language. Even informal gatherings, such as book clubs or discussion groups, provide valuable opportunities to practice speaking. 13. Use multimedia to mimic native speakers. Watch and listen. Regularly watch English movies, TV shows, YouTube videos, or listen to podcasts and TED Talks. Pay close attention to pronunciation, intonation, and conversational flow. Imitation practice. Pause and mimic short segments from these sources. This shadowing technique helps you internalize natural speech patterns, making your own speaking sound more fluid and confident. 14. Leverage mobile apps and interactive tools. Accent and pronunciation apps. Try using specialized apps like Elsa Speak or Speechling that focus on providing feedback on your pronunciation. They often include fun, gamified exercises that encourage regular practice. Interactive language games. Participate in language learning games that challenge you to speak and listen actively. These games can make the learning process engaging while subtly building your speaking skills. 15. Embrace public speaking in small steps. Start with micro-speaking. Begin by practicing very short speeches or presentations in front of a mirror or recording yourself. Gradually increase the length and complexity of your spoken content as you gain confidence. Join impromptu speaking clubs. Look for clubs or events that focus on impromptu speaking. This helps you learn to organize your thoughts quickly and speak more spontaneously, reducing the pressure of planning every word. 16. Reflect and celebrate progress. Keep a speaking journal. Document your daily or weekly speaking experiences. Write down what you found challenging, any improvements you noticed, and how you felt before and after each practice session. Celebrate small victories. Acknowledge every moment of progress, whether it's a successful conversation, a presentation that went well, or even just a day when you felt less anxious. Recognizing these achievements can boost your self-confidence and motivate you to continue practicing. 17. Seek professional guidance. Consider a speech coach or tutor. A professional specializing in pronunciation or public speaking can offer personalized feedback, helping you target specific areas that need improvement. Engage in improvisational activities. Join improv classes. Enroll in an improvisational theater or comedy class. These classes encourage you to think on your feet and speak spontaneously, which can help you become more comfortable with unexpected conversations. Try improv games. Organize informal improv sessions with friends or classmates. Games that require quick responses can help you practice formulating ideas in English in a fun, low-pressure setting. 19. Focus on nonverbal communication use, body language. Effectively. Remember that communication isn't only about words. Gestures, facial expressions, and posture can support your verbal message and help you feel more confident when speaking. Watch and learn. Observe videos of skilled speakers or TED Talks to see how they use nonverbal cues. Try to incorporate similar techniques into your own practice sessions. 20. Embrace active listening practice. Active listening. Improve your conversational skills by focusing on what others are saying. This not only helps with comprehension, but also gives you time to formulate thoughtful responses. Ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something, don't hesitate to ask follow-up questions. This shows that you're engaged and can help clarify the conversation, making speaking easier. 21. Incorporate humor and playfulness. Learn and share jokes. Incorporating humor into your conversations can break the ice. Try learning a few simple jokes or funny anecdotes in English. Humor is a great way to ease tension and connect with others. Engage in light banter. Practice small, playful conversations with friends or in language groups. This relaxed environment can make speaking feel more natural and less intimidating. 22. Participate in online forums and social media groups. Join English-speaking communities. Platforms like Reddit, Facebook groups, or language learning forums allow you to interact in a supportive online environment. Start with written posts and gradually transition to voice chats if available. Take part in voice chats. Many social media platforms and apps host group voice chats. These sessions can offer a less formal setting to practice your spoken English and receive immediate feedback from peers. 23rd. Set specific, measurable goals. Create a speaking challenge. Set a personal challenge, like speaking on a specific topic for 2 minutes every day. This focused practice helps build endurance and confidence over time. Track your progress. Keep a log or journal of your speaking activities. Record your sessions, note improvements, and identify areas to work on. Reviewing your progress can be a powerful motivator. 24. Leverage technology for real-time feedback. Utilize virtual tutors, Online platforms and language learning apps that offer real-time feedback on pronunciation and fluency can be very beneficial. Some apps even simulate conversations and correct you as you speak. Use speech analysis tools. Software that analyzes your speech patterns can provide insights into your pacing, intonation, and clarity. This data can help you adjust your delivery for more effective communication. 25. Reflect on your personal journey. Keep a reflective journal. Write about your daily speaking experiences, noting what went well and what you'd like to improve. Reflecting on your progress helps reinforce positive habits and highlights areas for further growth. Revisit your recordings. Periodically listen to recordings of your previous speaking sessions. Seeing how far you've come can boost your confidence and provide clear evidence of improvement. Final thoughts. Learning to speak English confidently is a journey that involves continuous practice, self-reflection, and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone. Every conversation, whether it's a short chat with a friend or a public speaking event, offers a new opportunity to learn and grow. Keep experimenting with different techniques, embrace your mistakes as part of the learning process, and celebrate every bit of progress along the way. Your voice is unique and valuable, and with persistence and the right strategies, you'll find yourself speaking English more naturally and confidently every day.